Welcome, everybody. This is Planet Green Trees, episode 198. We're calling it simply Saginaw County Sheriff William Federspiel. Today is May the 8th, 2014, Thursday. Call number is 1-347-326-9626. You may be listening at www.planetgreentrees.com. As I said, good evening. My name is Michael Corn. I'm your host. And alongside me to bring you the most informative and up-to-date, compelling, compassionate news and information about medical marijuana and cannabis reform, Chad from the Birmingham Compassion Club.
Good evening. It's nice to be here.
The one and only editor-in-chief of the Compassion Chronicles, cannabis and cannabis reform activist Rick Thompson.
Hi, it's me.
Rick, of course, will be bringing us the news a little later. And, missing and unheard from, I don't know, just dropping out, totally irresponsible. That guy, Jamie, just kidding. I'm sure he'll be here soon. He, of course, was responsible for putting the show together as he does every week. He's the producer. And from Third Coast Compassion, we want to thank him for all of his hard work. I know he's going to be here. And may even be approaching now. Tonight, very exciting show, and we are proud to bring you in a guest style that is always enjoyable, I think, and discussion and education process that everyone can learn from. But we are pleased to have on our show tonight Sheriff William L. Federspiel of the Saginaw County Sheriff's Department. Saginaw, as many of you know, is one of the cities with its eyes set on decriminalizing the possession of cannabis by way of a ballot initiative for this November's election. Similar successful campaigns have been accomplished in several cities throughout Michigan. The trend amongst voters seems to demand change in policy and punishment regarding cannabis. Saginaw County Sheriff William L. Federspiel, who recently participated in an Mlive online debate, has agreed to call in, take questions, and state his position on the cannabis and the ballot initiative movement for change in the current laws. Also on the agenda, and I don't know if I've got added guests, I think we have
Ethan Thampy.
From
Americans for Forfeiture
Reform. I actually had spoken to him recently, and we were discussing something. We're excited to have him. Oftentimes, which is a very under-discussed topic, one that people are still shocked when they hear the way that it works. And I know that interesting, and I think it'll find its way into the agenda of this discussion will be how, in fact, what impact relaxing some of the laws may have on the forfeiture as the Sheriff's Department has come to enjoy proceeds from. Also on the agenda, if we get to it, we're going to be discussing the other cities that are engaged in the ballot initiative. We love to continue the discussion of the stupidity of the 5 nanograms THC limit.
Came up again today.
It should often, but not in a way that is meaningful.
In a public forum in the legislature,
at the House of Representatives.
It was only the representative for the Prosecutors Association, so nobody important pushing it.
Who brought that up? Why would that even be on the top? Oh, that's right. Okay. The use of cannabis in treating autism is an important topic that we've been discussing and promoting. As many of you know, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, Comorn Law, Birmingham Compassion Center, Third Coast, Compassion Chronicles, and many, many other organizations. Dr. Harry Shugani, Dr. Christian Wagner, Joe from the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, and our research have all dug in deep here, and we are going to be presenting a petition which may have to be administratively argued to have another opportunity. But we encourage those that know of people that are in the community afflicted with autism, contact us, and at least encourage people to sign the petition as we gather numbers for our presentation before the court and then the new conditions panel. All right, so I also want to give a quick shout out. Oh, by the way, also coming, of course, will be the contributors from Rick, and we're going to hear more from Jamie and Chad. They're going to talk a lot tonight, I have a feeling. I'm going to rant in a minute. I want to give a shout out to a couple friends, Dewey and Pam, of course. We've been driving like crazy. Had a good week these last couple of weeks, and we got to keep at it. And I'll see you tomorrow. We're excited for Pam to get back. And also the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, Michigan Medical Marijuana Association.org.
MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
And, of course, the administrators and the
Forum
moderators who are helping every week to create a safe environment for the community to learn about medical cannabis, involve the conversation. Also, the Marijuana Ranch, 313-422-5281. Call for your tour of the Cannabis Cultural Center. Dr. Kumar Singh of the Green Light Clinic, 248-390-0574. Actually talked to Dr. Singh today. It's fascinating, by the way, that he, some of his instincts on some of the legal medical issues that had come up. He actually was in a debate with another physician, the treating physician of the patient, who was making the argument that marijuana wasn't working for the patient, when the reaction was, as Dr. Kumar was able to articulate and prove, and had gone to great lengths to establish that as part of the medical chart, quality characteristic to have of your certified physician, that beyond just anecdotal testimony by the patient talking to the doctor, it was verified that the patient was off all opiates, only using marijuana to treat the pain. And from that, Dr. Kumar Singh was able to, establish, at least for the chart and moving forward, why there's a medical efficacy just based upon the argument that there's no side effects and the patient's overall health has been well improved. All right, also big shout out to Bob Red and Tori Clark, of course, really the face of the victims in the medical marijuana struggle. And we know that Tori's very ill and the hospice, and we want to wish our best, and prayers go out to you too. Eric Gunnell is the trustee for Thetford Township. Wish him his best, and encourage others to follow in Eric's footsteps and get involved with local government and changing the conversation about medical cannabis. I do have to refer just briefly to a case, and John Roberts of the Cannabis Cancer Project and all of his friends and family. We got a really strange ruling in a case that we were representing him on involving Section 8. It was the first time that we've not been successful in prevailing on the Section 8 defense ever. And what's ironic about it is I don't think there has been a group of more sick patients that were participating in the hearing that testified. In fact, every time
to medical efficacy, and that every single one of the patients was a terminally diagnosed with terminal cancer. In fact, when the doctor goes through the patient's testimony, he refers to the patient and their diagnosis of cancer. 3 of the 7 patients that had cancer that testified were certified by their oncologist. Do you think their oncologist had any idea how much marijuana the patient was supposed to use? And further, the worst part of the story is they didn't care.
2 of the patients that testified have expired. They've died since the hearing. So it is really one of the most absurd, and it is a reflection on the absurdity of what the Court of Appeals had interpreted the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act before the Supreme Court got to speak on it. And I'm assuming that this will change when the Supreme Court gets the cases that the Court of Appeals produced, bringing about these results. And the short answer is that the idea that a physician is supposed to know how much marijuana a patient should be ingesting is silly at this point. And I could list a number of reasons, but I'll save that for another rant. I do have a rant that I did want to get into. It came about from a discussion taking place on just a real tragedy. The backdrop is that I understand a medical marijuana patient in Chesterfield Township had, I'm not sure who the lawyer was, but had proceeded with a Section 8 hearing, and Judge Hackle, who had, many years ago given a very favorable ruling on one of the first constitutional search issues regarding cards and probable cause. It was later reversed in the Macomb Circuit Court. But nevertheless, Judge Hackle granted the jury trial to a patient who asserted medical purposes for using marijuana. And this news story that breaks out of this, Rick, this is your patch, right? But
the news story that breaks out of is that the city attorney who had fought against the right to present a medical marijuana defense appealed to the Chesterfield Township City Council for appellate funds to appeal the district court's ruling on this patient's right to present a defense. Now, me and Brother Chad drafted a little something here. I didn't proofread it yet, so if there's something I don't like about it, I'm going to blame Chad on it. But it went something like this. We are thoroughly disappointed in your recent vote to appeal the decision of the District Court Judge William Hackle to grant a jury trial to a patient asserting the medical purposes for using marijuana. First of all, City Council, you're not attorneys, and I would suggest that your city attorney probably misled you. If the judge made the determination that the defendant is able to present his case to a jury, what it means is that the system is working. The point of the Voter Initiative Act is to let the people decide, and patients and their caregivers are supposed to have a defense to any charges involving marijuana. I wonder if the city attorney showed you, or you even are aware of, that one of the paragraphs in the initiative that overwhelmingly 63% of Michigan voters approved in the township of Chesterfield, 64% on their own, was that registered and unregistered patients and caregivers shall have a defense to any charges involving marijuana. This is unequivocal. So when Judge Hackle says, well, the issues are one that will be resolved by the voters, the people that voted for this law, the system is working. And to suggest that giving money to deprive someone of a right to present a defense is suggesting that, number one, well, let's look at it this way. Let's interpret what was said to the city council. Allowing patients and caregivers to have a defense in your court will cost too much. So the solution, therefore, is to deny justice. The argument was made that if patients are able to defend themselves and win these trials, you're going to lose out on a lot of money, city council, that's paying your salaries. What it means is that you're making so much money from prosecuting and convicting patients and caregivers, you should not, therefore, allow your own citizens to be protected under state law, and that you spend money on legal action to deny what clearly an overwhelming number of Michigan and Chesterfield Township voters approve. In saying this, you've been misled. That presenting, and I know that it's in the article that the argument was that the affirmative defense is somehow immunity. That's not the case. It is a defense. It means that what you're doing is appealing a decision of a defendant to have the God-given constitutional right to present a defense and tell their version of the story. It doesn't mean that they're not guilty. It's up to the jury to decide. And to appeal, and if successful, it would mean that the person wouldn't have the opportunity to let his fellow citizens determine whether or not it's for medical purposes or not. In other words, the ruling that the defendant could present a medical marijuana defense before the jury is not a loss to your city attorney. It's a ruling to allow your community, the same people who voted for you, city council, and whom you represent, you're going to let those people that you represent decide whether or not the marijuana issue was for medical purposes or not. You should be mindful that 64% of the voters approved medical marijuana in 2008 Chesterfield Township. The ruling you've authorized your city to appeal is a smack in the face of the voters of your community. If the city attorney is successful, that means the defendant will be tried without being able to mention medical marijuana. At the same time, the elected official from the same constituency that you rely upon, Judge Hackle, same voters, same voted in elected official, your, I would say, not equivalent, but a higher up office, more educated, requiring passing of a bar, education to a certain degree. And I know that that is not a requirement of city council. Nevertheless, looking at the law, relying on the law, analyzing it in a way that it should be legally, made a finding. And the finding is not that you lose, it's that the community, the jury, this is the United States of America, the distinction of our country and the basis of our democratic system is that just because the government says it is so does not mean it is so. and that they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And the attorney that's representing the defendant is burdened with the task of making a game of it, at least, and challenging the theories of the government. So why should this process that we thrive on, that is the fundamental basis of our liberties, be deprived of anybody, let alone your community members in your jurisdiction? And how much money is it worth? Is the $10,000 or $15,000 you're going to pay for an appeal to try to deny this one individual, is that worth it? Is that a exchange for the amount of money you're going to milk out of some arrested persons for possession? It's time to take another look at this in Chesterfield Township. I'm thoroughly disappointed that any city council has been misled this far. That's the only excuse for why it would go this way, would be misleading and a lack of information. But nevertheless, that's the rant. We've got a very exciting show. As I said, we're going to have the sheriff from Saginaw. And before we go to break, I want people may not know this, but I happen to catch that the sheriff is incidentally a musician as well. And I caught a live performance of him at some festival, and I'll play a little bit of that for you.
It's a tough job out there for the men and women in law enforcement. Trust me, I know. I've got a lot of work for me. We see them every day, and sometimes they have to be something that they don't always want to be when they're dealing with these tough people, and that's what this song's all about.